This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to the Whisker Report. We're a new podcast dedicated to helping anyone in the pet industry, whether you're at an animal nonprofit or a for-profit pet company. We want to help you get some PR and buzz for your organization. I'm Mary Tan, everyone, one of the hosts of the show, along with Alexandre Ricard, who hails from France, but travels the world in hopes of spaying and neutering every single cat she meets. And right now, she's across the pond in France. Bonjour, Alex. I really need some French bread now. Can you get me a baguette?
Bonjour, Mary. I wish I could send you one, but I don't think it will arrive very fresh. But yeah, sorry, you need to come to France.
I know, I do. And so does our guest, too.
Yes. We're so excited about this show today. If you want to learn more about marketing, if you have a small pet business or a nonprofit and really want to get the insights on marketing, we've got the expert for you today. Before I introduce her, I want to introduce our producer, Mark Winter of Pet Life Radio, who is the man who gets us to you each and every week. Hi.
Bonjour. I would like a croissant if you're sending pastries.
You guys just need to come to France, both of you. Just do a podcast in France.
Yes, I could use, actually, is it a macaron? Did I say it right?
Macaron?
Oh no, chocolat.
Macaron.
Moulin frites.
Oh, wait, Macron is your prime minister. Sorry.
No, President Mary.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I don't think you could have him. You could have a macaron, though.
Yeah, not the president.
Oh.
Okay. Amazing. So our guest today is Lauren Carter, who is the founding partner of 9094, a marketing firm who specializes to small and medium businesses. And we had the amazing pleasure of meeting her and working with her at SuperZoo in Las Vegas. We did PR for TEEF, a dental health product company for pets. And Lauren works for them as the marketing manager. So hi, Lauren. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me, ladies.
So first of all, Lauren, give us a little bit of your background. How did you get working in the pet industry? Because that's not where you're actually coming from, I think. So can you give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, I have a really diverse background. I live in Minnesota now, but I sharpened all of my skills in Chicago. I actually started in the world of Chicago politics, which is not for the faint of heart, trying to change the world just like y'all, but it was Chicago politics. So I actually went to work for a political PR firm shortly after that, behind the scenes, yet again, Chicago politics, and decided that I would enjoy the creative side of things a little bit more. So I worked a little bit with directors of TV commercials before I went and worked corporate. So I've got the agency side, the PR side, the corporate side. And then throughout all of it, I worked with, some small businesses and startups and things like that, friends who were doing things to just, run things behind the scenes. I've never been a girl to have one job. So I got laid off from my corporate job and found myself working with a friend's startup. And at the same time, my family was working to open the first indoor-outdoor dog park bar and restaurant in Minneapolis. And so my mom and brother actually worked to change the laws in Minnesota to allow this to happen because, Minnesota already has really weird drinking laws. I don't know if you're aware. So it was really difficult. And so, everyone wanted to open something like this. It's not a new concept per se, but there wasn't any in Minnesota. In fact, I think the closest was like Kansas City and Denver. And so they were doing that. And that was really where I started my work with the pet world. Personally, we had a dog growing up, and then I got my first cat out of nowhere several years ago. And now I've got a cat who's a best friend. And so just the whole pet world, and diving into it with my family and my family's business was really eye-opening. And so that was actually, we did a crowdfunding campaign and raised, I think, like $60,000 from strangers. I mean, it's amazing what you can do when you engage with the community. And, having a background in politics, right? Like, I'm not scared to be grassroots. I'm not scared to get on the ground. I'm not scared to reach out to people individually, and that's what you have to do. So it was really cool to see, I think we had like 400 or 500 backers on that first crowdfunding campaign. And we baked in an instant community, which was super cool. And so from there, we opened 6 weeks before COVID.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So Unleashed Hounds and Hobbs opened 6 weeks before COVID. And honestly, it's hard enough to own a restaurant in the best of times. It's hard enough to own a business in the best of times. And so we opened 6 weeks before COVID. And, what I will say is we lucked out in a lot of ways because we had that baked in community, because we had a lot of things we could lean on, including like a big outdoor patio and a huge influx of people having dogs during the pandemic. We actually, were able to withstand that and continue to grow. So that just blew up. We started a pet market, and that's where I really started getting engaged with really small pet businesses. That's how I met TEEF, actually, and nonprofits and a lot of rescues. And so, we created a huge network of pet businesses and rescues and other, adjacent providers. And it just kind of went from there. I believe that everyone should have access to good marketing and good ideas, whether you are teeny tiny or gigantic. And, I think that it's important to have, that be available for everybody. And so, yeah, anyway, we just kind of created a cute little community. And then, yeah, it's kind of grown from there.
Do you think that the community part of it really stemmed, like you mentioned, from your political side of it? Because I've seen a small cat store here. They couldn't pay the rent the following month, and they raised all the money in like 2 days on Facebook.
Yes.
And that's kind of the stuff you're talking about, correct?
Absolutely. And I mean, we're really close I am with the Great Dane Rescue of Minnesota, and they do a phenomenal job with the community as well, because each person is needed to contribute. And it does. I mean, it's hard. I always say a bunch of pennies make a dollar, right? Like a penny seems very small, but when you have a ton of them, you're getting somewhere. And so again, it's really important to engage with people, engage with community, engage with like even competitors. I always say that there's enough room in the sandbox for everybody. And there are some areas that get really saturated, right? So after the pandemic, you saw a lot of like bandana businesses and bandanas with like matching masks. And, it's amazing. Like at the time, because, a lot of people could do that, but there is enough room. Everyone does something a little differently, right? And so in a way, having some competition, having some people doing similar things is a good thing, right? And it lifts everybody together. So there are power in numbers for sure. And I think that if you're a small business, the best thing that you can do is create a community with other small businesses. And, word of mouth is a great way to build. That's a great way to find out what events are going on. If you're doing pop-ups, a lot of people, if they can't do something, they'll be really happy to refer somebody, and say, oh, I can't be here, but this person is also great and they can. And so I think people should learn from each other too, because I can't tell you how many things I've tried to even just learn on my own when I could just say, hey, how did you do that? And so I've I'll still do that sometimes. And then I'll catch myself and I'll check myself and I'll be like, why don't you just ask somebody? Because Google can only take you so far. It can take you very far. But sometimes, you'll go down a rabbit hole and you could just say, hey, you're on Shopify. I'm having this issue. Have you had, what's your, it works both ways. Right. So give a little, take a little, give a little back, and, everyone can grow together.
Absolutely. Alex, you had some great questions for Lauren.
Yes. So first of all, Lauren, when we met, I remember you telling me a story about PR agencies and how skeptical you were about them. So I just wanted to get a little insight about your experiences with other PR agencies and your experience with Whisker Media.
To be fair, I'm also skeptical of marketing agencies. I'm skeptical of anyone whose job it is to make something sound good, okay? Because that's kind of, for me, I can't tell you how many times clients have come to me and said, I spent all of this money and they told me all of these things are going to happen. I mean, everyone gets it, especially you small businesses. You get these emails saying, oh, your website needs to be improved. Like, it's good, but it can be better. Or I noticed that your search, but you need to do this. Or I can promise you this many leads. What do you think? And they're starting to sound really real to some people. I still get several forwarded to me a week from clients and I'm like, no, these are all fake. If they're not fake, they're just cold calling. You know what I mean? This isn't personal to you, right? And so, I just want to bring that back because it's not PR agency exclusive to my skepticism. It's just knowing that, there's a lot of wolf in sheep's clothing out there and a lot of people who they want you to believe. They want you to believe in yourself. They want you to believe in them. But the fact of the matter is media has changed a lot and it's very pay to play. And so I think that when PR agencies come to you and say, oh, you can pay us this a month, right? And most people don't have budgets, right? If we have $100,000 a month budget to, build a brand, then okay, we can consider a few $1,000s a month for a PR agency, right? But when you don't have that, when you aren't even paying for paid media or other, organic methods like influencers or things like that, that $2,000 is very important, right? And so I think it's hard because a lot of PR agencies will say, oh, we have connections with these people or those people, and here's who we're going to pitch. And, they're very careful with their words to not make any promises. But entrepreneurs are really, and so am I. I mean, I'm a believer. Are really apt to believe and feel like their product will be worthy of a pickup on the Today Show or on these big outlets or even these small outlets. But it's just not as easy as they make it seem, I think, especially if this is just kind of a day-to-day thing, if that makes sense. If you have some big news, right, like the human product for TEEF was on the International Space Station. Huge news.
Woohoo!
The treats. Huge news. The opening of Unleashed Hounds and Hops. Huge news, right? Like those are things that, again, but at the same time, when things are huge news, a lot of the outlets will pick it up, right? So with Unleashed, we didn't spend a dime, but because of the community outreach, because, of that, we were picked up because it is a good story and we were doing something truly unique and first of its kind. Does that make sense?
That completely makes sense.
So I just think a lot of people are very quick to say, oh, we can do all these amazing things. And then at the end, they're like, oh, well, we didn't promise. And then, you're out thousands of dollars and you maybe have like a weird pickup in like a weird publication. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Can you cut that? Can you cut out that there's no weird publications out there?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Mark, we should leave that in because there's a lot of bizarre publications out there. Trust me. But you know what? We have to pay for this show, so we're going to take a break and then we'll be right back with this amazing conversation with Lauren.
Need the perfect gift for the cat lover in your life? Check out ComfortDiva.com. We have cat-tastic gifts to make you smile, like cat-themed tote bags, kitchen towels, quirky mugs, and stylish t-shirts. For holiday gifts or anytime, ComfortDiva.com has it all. Treat the cat lady in your life to something pawsome and save 20% with coupon MEOW20. Visit ComfortDiva.com today because every cat lover deserves a little comfort. ComfortDiva.com, where comfort meets catitude.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms. And our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
And we're back. Lauren, continuing what we were talking about, I completely agree with you. I have actually hired PR firms myself, and they made a lot of promises. And that's something that at Whisker Media, we don't make any promises because we can't, right? But, you know, what makes us different is we just are so niched into the pet space. That's all we do.
100%. Yep.
You know, Alex and I, right? Alex, that's all we want to do. And Mark, too. We just want pets. And so that's kind of our take on it. But we completely agree with you. There's, you know, just like there's good and bad people, there's good and bad PR and marketing firms.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
Yeah. So kind of switching things, I wanted to ask you about what's it like to market a health-focused product in the pet space? How do people react to it?
So that's hard. It was gonna so pet. It is so fun. Marketing in the pet space is not the hard. I mean, when we opened Unleashed Hounds and Hops, or even with just all of these different pet brands I've worked with, right? Like it's a much easier sell when you got a cute furry pet and you can market to cute furry pet loving people. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a lot of things that are harder to market. Within that space, though, right? Anything you have that's functional, talk about promises, right? When you're selling a bandana or a leash or whatever, you know, you're just promising that it looks cute or it like does its basic job. But when you come to anything where you need to educate people, and you need to educate people not only on the product, but the need for the product, that's huge. Because, I mean, and listen, my cat has like 3 teeth left. I got him that way. I would like everyone to know that the $100,000 cat was got that way. But, you know, each tooth that a pet loses is years off their life, except for Russell. And I think that a lot of times, especially dental health or health in general of your pet, you know what I mean? Like, it just isn't talked about a whole lot. It hasn't been historically. I remember 10, 15 years ago hearing about friends with their cats who have, you know, their litter box problems or UTIs and things like that. But that was a very beginning of that conversation. That was before like the pretty litters. That was before all of these innovations and even people knowing that they can prevent it, right? Like in the past, it's kind of like you bring your dog or cat, they give you, you know, you do your vaccines, maybe you give them their tick and flea stuff in the summer, but like, that's kind of it, right? It's a whole different world now, right? As people are starting to realize how important, first of all, our own health is. I think it is parallel, right? I think it's going with the generations who are focusing more on, in general, some of these terms for their bodies. So pre and postbiotics, right? Like Olipop, like that's just starting to kind of like gut health is starting to be a focus, and it's 2024, right? So the pet stuff is kind of coming with our generation who is starting to kind of invest more in preventative, holistic things like that. All to say that when you're educating anybody about anything new or cutting edge or non-traditional, right? It's an uphill battle because there's a lot more conversation that needs to happen. It is getting easier with things like, and again, there are really bad products like greenies out there on the market. You can keep that in there. I mean, everyone said that. I'm not the first one to say it, okay? But even that helps. Because that conversation is becoming, you know, people are at least starting to think about it. And then ideally, they'll be like, oh, this is important. maybe I can do it better. Maybe I should do this. One thing I'll say that is important for all brands, or a really good consideration for all brands, specifically those that need more discussion, are influencers, but not the type of influencer that we're thinking, a professional influencer. So one of my very good friends and colleagues, AHA Marketing, based in Chicago, focuses on these really unique networks of professionals. So in the pet world, it's veterinarians, it's groomers, it's dog walkers, but it's also doulas and OBGYNs and teachers and educators, because when people are looking for recommendations, these are people they pay and already trust to recommend things, a vet, even a groomer, right? And you can educate the professional on these things, they become a network for you as well, right? Because if you think about a groomer, they probably see 10 clients a day. If you think about a vet, they probably see more than 10 clients. I mean, vets are like stacked, right? And even my vet, it's actually hilarious because I was like trying to pitch TEEF and they're like, oh yeah, I already recommended it to everybody. And I was like, oh, you already use it? They're like, no, but another vet told me it's amazing. And that's all it took, was a vet that they know who said, this is a great product, give it to people who, are having issues with their dentals, blah, blah, blah. And then they just recommend it to people.
That's so cool.
Huge. And I'm like, well, do you want to try it? She's like, no. I'm like, I already like it. But I'm like, okay, fine.
That's incredible. And it's so nice to hear that, because we've heard so much talk about influencers lately. I mean, Mary at SuperZoo, you were in a panel saying, are influencers still a thing, right? And
right.
The big talk was about, is the money spent on influencers for small pet brands, is it worth it? And there was a huge talk about it. But I think it is very interesting that you say you just need to go to actual influencers, people who actually influences other people, and not just somebody who has a lot of followers.
Well, I'm a huge fan of micro influencers as well. I mean, it's so back in the day, you could buy followers. Back in the day, there were a lot of bots, right? There are a lot of people. I recommend anybody who considers an influencer should really consider their engagement and their actual, interaction with their following and with the community, right? And I think that if you, again, promises, right? People will be like, oh, they have 3 million followers, like whatever. And this is going to be great. Like they're going to post, oh my gosh. Okay, listen to this. I had a product a long time ago called, it wasn't a pet product, but it was called Ho 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 H2O Easy Christmas Tree Watering System. Okay, it's actually it was like a gift box. It was when I first I'm dead. It was literally a watering tank that was like disguised as like a present, and it would automatically refill your Christmas tree. Anyway, so fun. But the guy, one of the guys got this girl who was on like Say Yes with Your Dress, but she was like a tattooed model, and she was like, oh, she's got 3 million followers. She's gonna post it, and we're gonna like become millionaires. And I opened the account, and I was like, what? Like, first of all, like this has nothing to do with our brand. Like, second of all, like what? And I think she posted, and I don't think we got like any sales for it, but it just, that type of stuff, like just because people have numbers or have, eyeballs, or I don't know, you got to really think about where you spend your money, right? And so again, back to just like the number side of things, I had a client who sent me a lady, she's like, oh, she's just, she's not even trying hard, and she's got like 2 million followers. And I did the math, and I was like, okay, but it's like 2% engagement, because she's got 30,000 likes, but that's like nothing compared, like that's not good for 2 million followers, right? Versus if you have someone who has 600 followers who actually know them, who actually exist, who actually engage with these people, and they maybe get 100 likes, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's 20%.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. So during this panel, it was interesting. It was about pet influencers at SuperZoo, the trade show in Las Vegas. And a lot of the panels were like, this isn't it's not working like it used to. Or, you know what? Influencer marketing works better in other spaces like fashion or lifestyle, but it doesn't seem to be working in pet.
Well, here's the deal. First of all, people know. Like when you like people are so aware that something is being paid to share. Like it's just obvious. You know what I mean? Like the fact of the matter is, like, if you have something people truly need, or so for us, for example, our influencer programming is based around sharing the messaging, right? Like almost more, it's a much more grassroots approach. We don't, engage these knowing we're going to get instant return and instant sales, but it's a long game, right? It's brand recognition. It's people using it and then recommending it. It's much more, again, of that grassroots approach to it. I guess you have to manage your expectations when you use influencers. I feel like that's maybe the better thing to say, because you can get, again, sometimes like content is expensive to make. So like for us, when we consider influencers and what our budget is, we consider a lot more than just sales. Like this is not, it's almost like a PR spend, right? It's not guaranteed. And it's not like maybe someone will, do something, it'll go viral and you know what I mean? But like, that's not how it works anymore. It's so loud, right? And everybody knows that things are sponsored. Everybody knows that things are pay to play, if that makes sense. And so like, that's the thing about, in pet or any industry, right? Like it's easy to sell anything that looks cute, right? Like influencers, because it's like, oh, that's cute. Or you know what I bought the other day, you guys, is like a can opener for like my cat food cans, because my nails are too nice to keep messing them up. And I got it off a TikTok shop, okay? Literally, 2 things I bought off a TikTok shop. A can opener, because I was like, oh my God, I've been looking for that. Like, this is what I've been needing. And it was like $13, you guys. Like, I literally should put it a magnet. Anyway, I'm happy with a 10 out of 10. And like coloring books, because I'm like, oh, this is a great coloring book with thick line, but that's a visual. Like, this is something that I can see and it's cute and I want it, or, it's functional and I need it. Like, all the other stuff that comes out on my stuff, like, oh, there was like the steamy duster that's been like going all over the place on TikTok. Yeah. Which I think about, and I'm like, or the ice machines, like all over TikTok, which also I do think about because I love Pebble Ice. But really, I'm still not buying them because I'm like, this is just going to be junk. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to actually buy an appliance, I'm going to go do research. I'm not going to buy it off a freaking TikTok shop, okay? Like, I cannot. Like, that's where I get cut off, is if I start buying appliances off of TikTok, okay? But see how long that'll last, okay? Because you'll see my ass with, like, a something in a few years, and I'll be like, I got it on TikTok shop. And that's just the algorithm, right? Like, that's just them knowing how to target. Like, and I even know the game, and I get got by the game. You know what I mean? Like, that possum shirt that says, first of all, I'm a delight. Yep, bought that off of Facebook. Like, but it took them like 10 times to show me the ad. So I don't know.
So we know that TikTok ads or social media ads work, especially with Lauren. We had no idea that you were an artiste with your coloring books.
I'm not. That's the thing. It's like thick lines, so I can't admit, because some of those coloring books are stressful. Those grown-up coloring books are like not fun. They're like really little and they hurt my eyes. And then I mess up and then I quit. So,
well, you know what? We got to take a quick break and then we're going to come back with Lauren, who's going to enlighten us with more of whatever she does in her off time.
Here's Daryl Michelson, owner of Furniture Cat Furniture.
Back in 1990, I was in the market for some cat furniture. And as looking at the cat furniture available, I realized that most of it is basically overpriced junk. The big difference between our furniture and other cat furniture is the fact that we use plywood, and all other cat furniture is made with some sort of a particle board.
You can see the furniture difference online at Furniture.com. That's Purniture.
Let's Talk Pets. Let's Talk Pets on Pet Life Radio. Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
And we're back with Lauren, who was just telling us a really cool story that she needs to repeat all life.
No, it's just embarrassing. Listen,
Yeah, exactly.
So I get a cat. I get made fun of because I'm the only person in my whole family with a cat, right? And so just having a cat is reason to get dragged in my family. And so all of a sudden I have this cat who literally will go on leash walks and he's the bougie little cat with 2 teeth. And we finally found a food that he would eat, and it was called Tiki Cat After Dark. And it had a half a quail egg that floated on top of it. And that's all he would eat for months. And it was not, the price was one thing, but having to tell the vet, they asked you the food. Very embarrassing. Anyway, we're on the fancy feast life now. So.
Well, that's kind of, your cat is a reflection of you.
Well, he Benito, he bougie. Just good life. He has a very good life.
Okay, so getting back to the focus of the show. So we need some tips and tricks from you, Lauren. For those who don't think that they can do their own PR and marketing, they're the startup. It's the founder, inventor who's doing everything themselves. And then, people tell them, well, no matter where you sell it, you've got to promote it. You need some marketing, especially. So what do you say to that?
I feel like Pee Wee Herman with a word of the day, community, right? I think that's the biggest thing, especially if you live in, Minneapolis is unique because it's got very small town vibes for being a city. But if you're not, especially if you're not in a big city, I think that just starting to get to know the people around you, everyone has pets, right? And so I think that's one thing that's really fun about marketing for pet is it's not localized like a restaurant. It's not an age demographic, right? Like certain products. It's not a gender demographic. It's all sorts of people, right? And it's all sorts of people from, people are starting to have pets at a much younger ages now and have pets. I'm talking about having kids. Because they're not having those. And so, because again, you see a lot of people in their young 20s who have dogs and have cats. And so it's just start to get to know people. And you also have, not to take any tricks from the MLMs, but you've got your own community as well. And your communities have community. And there's a lot of people who are cheerleaders for you. I think one thing that I also want to tell everyone, like all your friends' posts. It's such an easy thing to even save it or share it just to another account and give them a boost. I have friends who are still liking past clients posts just because they knew that I worked with them and they have nothing to do. They don't live in Minneapolis. They have no reason to be engaging on Minneapolis focused business posts, right? But they do because they're supportive. And so I think that be supportive of other businesses and they'll be supportive of you. I think that's a really big thing. And that's something that honestly kind of bugs me because it's why aren't you going in and liking other people's business posts, right? It's such an easy way to kind of support a business. And I know that doesn't necessarily lead to sales, but it also feels good to not have a post where it has 3 likes and everyone has those, you know what I mean? Because the algorithm sucks these days. Also, don't spend money boosting things on Instagram and Facebook unless you really know what your goal is and what you're doing. Feel free to play around, but just know that won't lead to sales. There's very few things monetarily that will lead directly to sales. At the end of the day, if you're not doing what you need to be doing the best way that you can do it, your money will just fall flat.
So how do you? What has been your experience? What works on getting products to sell?
I think just do everything to the best of your ability. Don't rush. I think that's another thing. A lot of people are really eager, and I get it. Like, it's so exciting. Like, you just want to be selling or you just want to be live. But, you know, I think it's really important to have all of your ducks lined up before you really start pushing that. Because at the end of the day, each set of eyeballs that you get on your brand is very important. And if you lose them once, it's hard to get them back. And so, you know, make sure that even if it's really simple, or even if it's just like an Etsy site, you know what I mean? Like, make sure that you have your best foot forward. Make sure that things look good, or that they're quality, or, you know, that they're getting to experience them, right? Because again, what you really want to do is get off on that right foot and have people who want to come back, because then they tell their friends, and then they come back to you, and then their friends tell their friends, which again, it comes back to community, right? Like, if you really truly have a holistic brand, it will grow itself, and it might not grow quick. It won't grow quick. I mean, you know, I think love Shark Tank, right? But like, I think just in the same ways of like the Kickstarters of the glory days of Kickstarters, where people were seeing people make millions of dollars, but they weren't seeing the thousands of other campaigns that barely passed 100.
Right.
So it's similar with business, right? Where they're like, oh, that's a great idea, and they were able to execute this, you know, and mine's better. Or, you know, one of my favorite things is when people say, oh, I was going to do that. And it's like, have you heard that from people before?
Yes.
Like, oh, I was going to do something like that. Oh, I had that idea. Like, well, you didn't do it. Okay.
Exactly.
Like, that was seriously drove me crazy, especially at like, right? They were like, oh, we wanted to open one of these. And it's like, well, you did. So you clearly didn't know how to, you know, but like, everyone can have the idea, but it's on execution. Right. And I think it's just important to like keep, because again, slow and steady really is the way to look at things. Make sure you prove your concept. Like, don't just quit your job and dive into something because, you know, you're like, oh, I can do this. You know what I mean? And I'm a passionate guy, right? Like, I'll be the first one to be like, quit your job and come to the dark side.
Yeah.
We have martinis at lunch here. Like, great.
No, we like share so many things in common. We here at Whisker Media, we've had situations where people just start up a product. They don't even have it on the market yet.
Good.
And then they want us to promote them. And it's like, well, where can you buy your product? So one of the big mistakes in terms of a PR agency is you really need to do all of the things Lauren said first. Because PR is really brand management. You know, do all the advertising, get your product so it's, you know, in tip-top shape, that you're going to get awesome reviews. Because we've also run into issues where we've had a client who just got terrible reviews, and oh my gosh, it's like, okay, we can't work with you anymore, because like, you know, this is affecting our reputation too. And so it's, you know, when you're finding a marketing or PR person, you know, so much of it is based like on our personal philosophies, you know, on how we view things. And we don't want you to waste your money, because there are so many agencies out there, PR or marketing, that will waste your money. They will promise things, or they won't promise things, and you get nothing in return. And we're small business owners. We know like what that's like, right, Lauren?
Well, and listen, everyone wants to sell, like, it's sales, you know? And so I think I trust someone more when they tell me they can't do something or won't do something than someone who's like, yeah, for sure. You know, no questions asked, like, this is what it'll cost. I've lost clients because I've said, no, I don't think that's the way to go. If you want to do that, you should hire someone else, but you should be doing this, you know, because again, you know, I'm not willing to just take people's money and be like, oh, whatever happens, happens, right? It's very much I can't tell you how many times someone was like, oh, I need social media help. And then I literally just take the call to convince them not to and tell them what they actually should be doing. Right? Like, okay, instead of spending money on that, why don't you do X, Y, or Z? Why don't you focus on things? So I always, is the juice worth the squeeze? Right? Like, you need to focus on some things that will get directly into people's and result in sales. So I'm a huge fan of email marketing. Right? You already have customers, you already have a base. There's a way you can stay in front of people in a better way and continue engaging them, right? So I love doing email marketing because that's a much more sure way to get in front of people than social media marketing right now. I look at things in how many ways you can use them. So for example, influencer marketing, micro-influencer marketing. And there's a great new business based on the Midwest called Hummingbirds, which is a micro-influencer business. And it's actually super cool and affordable. And long story short, if you can spend a couple $100s on an influencer, do it in a controlled way where you can also kind of work on an outcome together, if that makes sense, where it's like, hey, I'd really like to see you unboxing it and then giving it to your pet and then this, or set a timer and see how long it takes you to do this, or you know what I mean? And it'd be great if you could add us as a collaborator, right? Because then it's more content and it's more eyes that end up coming to us directly. And so just work on things and spend your money on things that you can utilize in multiple ways, if that makes sense. Not just out of the promise of sales, but okay, we also need some more content, or okay, we also, would like to see more reels or videos or photos of the new packaging that we have, because that's also really expensive. But there's also really great, accessible resources. There's a studio called Soona, Soona. And they're a photo and video studio, and they're 6 or 7 locations, but they also do it virtually, and you pay per photo, right? So literally if you just need a photo on white, it's $39. You send in your product, they take the picture, and that's it.
Wow.
You can zoom in. You can do whole shoots on Soona. A bunch of the stuff on my website is stuff that I took from Soona shoots that I did for different clients. But there's accessible ways. You don't need to just spend $3-4 grand on a photo shoot just to do that, right? You just need one great photo of this, or one great setup for the holidays, or. So, look for resources. There's a lot of really cool things out there. And stop using AI.
Yes.
Stop using AI. You can tell. And the emoji, just stop.
Oh, yeah.
Use AI. I use AI like a research tool, if I'm doing something and I'm like, okay, what are 5 reasons that I should do that? And then I'll be like, okay. And then I'll go and, do something else, like a Google, right? Yeah. But never in my life will I ask for it to give me a voice for a brand, or, fix things, or Photoshop. Oh, Photoshop. Oh my gosh. The amount of, okay, I really hope she doesn't hear this, but this one time I had a client who literally asked if we could Photoshop this cat's tail, in a different way.
What?
And I was like, no, dude. And this is why it's hard to work with cats. It's just I don't know. It was, it was something. But I was like, no, we're not Photoshopping this cat's tail. No, we're just not doing it. So
yeah,
just be genuine as a brand, I guess is all I'm saying. And if you really want to do it, and not grassroots it, there's also opportunities for incubators and investments and things like that, you know what I mean? But that's also not necessarily necessary, because a lot of people do that and they still have the same struggles as a little business, because then they just throw their money.
Right.
I know we got a little off topic at the end.
No, this is great information. And I think what we'll do is we'll link to the resources that you mentioned in our show page. And you know what? We're out of time. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thanks for having me.
This is so awesome. Well, that's a wrap for the show. We're so excited to be doing this for all of you out there who are making life better for animals. And if you have a gut question or any kind of concern that you want us to answer, reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook under the Whisker Report, and we'll try to answer it in a future podcast episode. But as we always say at the end of the show,
bark loud and purr smart.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.